those who voted against this resolution, I must say that your decision shocks me to my core. If any of your countries endured a similar massacre, I am certain that you would act with much greater force than Israel. The Russian resolution voted upon today sought to tie Israel's hands, preventing us from eliminating a threat to our existence. By demanding Israel to call on Gazans to return north, the resolution only serves to maximize civilian casualties, not mitigate them. I would like to begin by deeply thanking the United States and every other member of this Council that supported this resolution. Voting for a resolution that clearly condemns savage genocidal terrorists while standing up for member states' right to defend itself against terror shows that despite all of the libelous falsehoods spread in the UN's halls, there are still those who stand up for the values of freedom and security. I thank you for your moral clarity in such dark times. To those who voted against this resolution, I must say that your decision shocks me to my core. In Israel, we are fighting for our very survival. My elderly parents living in Ashkelon have spent the last 20 days running back and forth to their bomb shelters as rockets rain down on them, deliberately on them, on civilians. And you cannot condemn even these deliberate attacks on civilians perpetrated by terror organizations? If any of your countries endured a similar massacre, I am certain that you would act with much greater force than Israel. Much greater force. There would be no question in your minds that such a barbaric slaughter requires a broad military operation against the terrorists who committed such inhumane atrocities to eradicate their terrorist capabilities in order to make sure that such atrocities can never happen again. How would Moscow react if terrorist death squads wiped out entire neighborhoods in Moscow? How would Beijing respond if genocidal jihadists beheaded and murdered your babies? I will give you a moment to reflect on that thought. But I believe every person, not only here in this room, across the globe, whoever is watching this discussion, knows exactly how you would respond. So we don't need a moment to reflect. Should the Security Council not condemn the terrorists and their crimes against your innocent civilians, each of you would be just as shaken as I am. You would feel that there is a blatant double standard and that the international community is blind to your agony and that the Council isn't taking even the most basic steps that anyone with a slight moral compass should take. This is precisely how the state of Israel feels right now. Those who have voted against the US-led resolution have shown the world that this Council is incapable of doing the most basic task of condemning ISIS-like terrorists and cannot confirm the right to self-defense of the victim of these heinous crimes. Israel has been attacked and continues to be attacked. This is a fact. In the south from Hamas and in the north from Hezbollah. What a surprise. Meanwhile, the other resolution, the Russian resolution voted upon today, sought to tie Israel's hands, preventing us from eliminating a threat to our existence and permitting the genocidal terrorists to regroup so they can massacre us again. The absurdity to call on Israel to rescind the call for temporary evacuation is truly unbelievable and goes against every value that this Council represents. By demanding Israel to call on Gazans to return north, the resolution only serves to maximize civilian casualties, not mitigate them. Why would Israel ask Gazans to return to an active war zone? We cherish life and take every measure to minimize civilian fatalities, casualties. We are not fighting the Palestinians. We are fighting only the Hamas-ISIS terrorists. Civilians should never be deliberately put in harm's way. Furthermore, the alternative resolution, the Russian resolution, makes no mention of our right to self-defense, nor does it mention Hezbollah, the terrorist force on Israel's northern border that has spent the past weeks firing rockets without any reason, mortars and anti-tank missiles at Israeli towns and cities. Would Moscow or Beijing be given a right to self-defense if faced with the same threat? I believe so. Finally, if this other resolution truly focused on the humanitarian situation, as it was presented in the first time, the over 220 hostages being held by Hamas would not be a general side note at the very end of the resolution. It would be the first demand. The hostages held by Hamas must be the top humanitarian priority of the international community. Their well-being should come before aiding the supporters of the terrorists who abducted them. Before. Despite the wording of the Russian resolution, there can never be any false immoral comparisons between the Hamas savages and the law-abiding democracy of Israel. Israel is fighting sheer evil, and this should be crystal clear to every person in this room. Hamas has perpetrated the most barbaric massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Hamas is solely responsible for the Palestinians' situation in Gaza. Hamas is committing crimes against humanity. In the wake of the Holocaust, we collectively swore never again. This was one of the main reasons the UN was established. Never again, dear colleagues, is now. Do not forget this.